An illustration repository offers a central location for storing and accessing illustrations that have been presented in the forum for future reference and use. To contribute illustrations, members can submit illustrations that they have created or found elsewhere. Illustrations should be relevant to the topics discussed in the forum. Illustrations can be in any digital format such as JPG, PNG, or PDF. For organization, illustrations will be organized into categories based on topic or subject matter. Each category will have a subdirectory containing the illustrations. A master index will list all the categories and illustrations. For access, members can access the illustration repository by following a designated link from the forum. Once accessed, members can browse through the categories and download illustrations as needed. Benefits include easy access, so there is no need to search multiple threads for illustrations. Illustrations can be used in multiple topic areas. Members can quickly and easily find illustrations without wasting time searching. Illustrations can be used to enhance discussions and provide visual context. For example, an illustration from an earlier post in Threader could be placed in the Statistical Concepts category of the repository. Members who need an illustration for a discussion on statistical inference could easily find and download it from the repository. The repository could be managed by a group of volunteers or by the forum moderators. Members could provide feedback on the organization and accessibility of the repository. The repository could be expanded to include other resources, such as datasets and code snippets. To elaborate on contributing illustrations, members should ensure that the illustrations they submit are clear, well-labeled, and relevant to the forum's topics. If an illustration is sourced from elsewhere, proper attribution should be given to avoid copyright issues. Members can also provide a brief description or summary of the illustration's purpose or content to aid in categorization and searchability. Further expanding on organization, the categories should be well defined and logical to facilitate easy browsing. Subdirectories can be named descriptively to indicate the specific subject matter of the illustrations they contain. The master index should be comprehensive and regularly updated to reflect any changes or additions to the repository. Consider using a tagging system to further categorize illustrations, allowing for more granular search results. To extend on access, the designated link to the illustration repository should be prominently displayed and easily accessible from various points within the forum. A search function within the repository would enable members to quickly find illustrations based on keywords or tags. Consider implementing a user-friendly interface that allows for easy navigation and downloading of illustrations. Emphasizing the benefits, the easy access feature eliminates the frustration of sifting through numerous threads to locate a specific illustration. The reuse aspect promotes efficient use of resources and reduces redundancy in discussions. The time-saving benefit allows members to focus on the content of the discussions rather than spending excessive time searching for visuals. The consistency benefit ensures that illustrations are used appropriately and effectively to enhance understanding and engagement. Consider implementing a feedback mechanism to gather user input on the repository's effectiveness and identify areas for improvement. Regularly review and update the repository to ensure that it remains relevant and useful to the forum community. Explore the possibility of integrating the repository with other forum features, such as the ability to directly embed illustrations into posts. Providing more detail on repository management, a group of dedicated volunteers or the forum moderators could be responsible for overseeing the repository's content, organization, and maintenance. This could involve reviewing submitted illustrations, categorizing them appropriately, updating the master index, and addressing user feedback. Clear guidelines and procedures should be established for repository management to ensure consistency and efficiency. Consider implementing a version control system to track changes to illustrations and allow for easy restoration of previous versions. Exploring the expansion of the repository, datasets and code snippets could be valuable additions to complement the illustrations. These resources could be organized into separate categories or integrated with the existing illustration categories as appropriate. Consider providing accompanying documentation or tutorials for datasets and code snippets to enhance their usability. Regularly promote the repository to the forum community to encourage participation and ensure that members are aware of its availability. Consider hosting workshops or training sessions to demonstrate how to effectively use the repository and contribute to its content. Actively solicit feedback from members on the repository's content, organization, and usability to guide future improvements. To elaborate further on the illustration submission process, provide clear guidelines on the required file formats, image resolutions, and file sizes. Implement a submission form that includes fields for the illustration's title, description, category, and any relevant tags. Consider adding a moderation queue to ensure that all submitted illustrations meet the repository's standards before being published. Further explaining the categorization system, establish a hierarchical structure of categories and subcategories to allow for increasingly specific organization. Consider using a control vocabulary or taxonomy to ensure consistency in category names and descriptions. Regularly review and update the categorization system to reflect changes in the forum's topics and interests. Expanding on the master index, create a searchable index that allows members to quickly find illustrations based on keywords, tags, or category names. Consider implementing advanced search features such as Boolean operators or wildcard searches to further refine search results. Provide clear instructions on how to use the master index effectively. To elaborate on the repository's accessibility, ensure that the repository is accessible from all devices, including desktops, laptops, tablets, and smartphones. Optimize the repository's website or interface for fast loading times and easy navigation. Consider providing alternative access methods, such as an API or RSS feed for advanced users. Further detailing the benefits, emphasize the value of the repository in promoting knowledge sharing and collaboration within the forum community. Highlight how the repository can help to reduce duplication of effort and improve the overall quality of discussions. Provide examples of how illustrations from the repository have been used effectively in past discussions. Expanding on the feedback mechanism, create a dedicated forum thread or contact email address for members to provide feedback on the repository. Actively monitor the feedback and respond promptly to any concerns or suggestions. Use the feedback to identify areas for improvement and prioritize development efforts. To further enhance repository management, implement a system for tracking the usage of illustrations such as download statistics or view counts. Use this data to identify popular illustrations and categories, and to inform decisions about future content development. Consider implementing a reward system to recognize and incentivize members who contribute high-quality illustrations to the repository. Expanding the scope of the repository, consider including other types of visual media, such as videos, animations, or infographics. Develop guidelines for submitting and categorizing these additional types of media. Ensure that the repository remains focused on providing valuable resources for the forum community. To further promote the repository, create promotional materials such as banners, flyers, or social media posts. Highlight the benefits of the repository and encourage members to use it and contribute to it. Collaborate with other forum communities or organizations to promote the repository more widely. Expanding on the repository's integration with other forum features, consider allowing members to directly embed illustrations from the repository into their posts using a simple shortcode or button. Implement a feature that automatically displays relevant illustrations from the repository when a member is composing a post on a particular topic. Provide a mechanism for members to easily report broken links or other issues with illustrations in the repository. To further enhance the repository's usability, provide tooltips or pop-up descriptions for illustrations when members hover over them. Implement a zoom function that allows members to view illustrations in greater detail. Consider providing alternative text descriptions for illustrations to improve accessibility for visually impaired users. Expanding on the repository's security, implement measures to protect the repository from unauthorized access, modification, or deletion of content. Regularly back up the repository to prevent data loss. Monitor the repository for any signs of malicious activity and take appropriate action. To further refine the repository's organization, consider using facets or filters to allow members to narrow down search results based on various criteria, such as file type, image size, or color palette. Implement a system for rating or ranking illustrations based on their quality or relevance. Provide a mechanism for members to suggest new categories or tags for illustrations. Expanding on the repository's maintenance, regularly check for and remove any duplicate or outdated illustrations. Ensure that all illustrations are properly licensed and attributed. Update the repository's software and security patches regularly. To further enhance the repository's value, consider partnering with experts in various fields to curate and annotate collections of illustrations. Host online workshops or webinars to teach members how to effectively use illustrations in their discussions. Create a blog or newsletter to highlight interesting or useful illustrations from the repository. Expanding on the repository's long-term sustainability, develop a plan for ensuring that the repository remains viable and useful even as the forum evolves. Consider establishing a formal governance structure for the repository. Seek funding or sponsorships to support the repository's maintenance and development. To further promote the repository's adoption, create a series of short tutorial videos demonstrating how to use its various features. Develop a gamified system that rewards members for contributing high-quality illustrations and actively participating in the repository. Host regular contests or challenges to encourage members to create and share illustrations related to specific topics. Expanding on the repository's impact, track metrics such as the number of illustrations contributed, the number of downloads, and the level of user engagement. Use this data to assess the repository's effectiveness and identify areas for improvement. Share the results of this assessment with the forum community to demonstrate the value of the repository. To further enhance the repository's accessibility, provide support for multiple languages. Implement a translation system that allows members to contribute translations of illustration titles and descriptions. Consider creating a mobile app for accessing the repository and the GUR. Expanding on the repository's potential, explore the possibility of integrating it with other online resources, such as Wikipedia or academic databases. Develop a system for automatically generating captions or transcripts for illustrations. Consider creating a virtual reality or augmented reality experience that allows members to interact with illustrations in a more immersive way. To further solidify the repository's position as a valuable resource, create a comprehensive style guide for contributing illustrations. Develop a set of best practices for using illustrations effectively in discussions. Offer training and support to members who are new to creating or using illustrations. Expanding on the repository's community aspects, create a forum or chat room where members can discuss illustrations, share tips, and collaborate on projects. Host regular online events where members can showcase their illustrations and get feedback from their peers. Consider creating a mentoring program to connect experienced illustrators with newer members. To further enhance the repository's educational value, create a series of online courses or tutorials on various aspects of illustration, such as design principles, software techniques, and copyright law. Develop a library of templates and resources that members can use to create their own illustrations. Consider partnering with educational institutions to offer accreditation for courses or programs related to illustration. Expanding on the repository's research potential, create a database of metadata about the illustrations, such as the date created, the author, the software used, and the keywords associated with the image. Develop a system for analyzing this metadata to identify trends and patterns in the use of illustrations. Consider publishing research papers or articles based on this analysis. To further promote the repository's use in education and research, create a set of lesson plans or activities that teachers can use to incorporate illustrations into their curriculum. Develop a set of guidelines for citing illustrations in academic papers or reports. Consider partnering with libraries or archives to preserve and make accessible the illustrations in the repository for future generations.